The man who cannot control his attention cannot control his life. That is not a metaphor. That is the fundamental operating law of power, and right now, the majority of men alive are violating it every single hour of every single day, without even recognizing that the war has already been declared against them. Machiavelli did not write about focus as a productivity concept. He wrote about it as survival. He studied princes, generals, and conquerors, and what he found embedded in every man who rose and held power was not superior intelligence, not superior resources, not superior circumstance. It was the absolute, unbroken command of where their mind went and what it refused to entertain. The prince who could not govern his own attention was conquered before his enemy arrived. The general who allowed distraction into his command structure had already surrendered territory he did not know he had lost. This is not ancient history. This is the architecture of every victory and every collapse happening around you right now. The difference between the men building something real and the men watching them do it from the outside is not talent. It is focus. Ruthless, deliberate, weaponized focus. And today, you are going to understand exactly what that means, what it costs, and what it builds. Number 1. Your mind is occupied territory. Reclaim it, or lose everything. Before you conquer anything in the external world, you must first conquer the war happening inside your own skull. Machiavelli understood something that most men refuse to accept. The greatest enemy you will ever face is not a rival, not a competitor, not a system built against you. It is the undisciplined version of yourself that wakes up every morning and negotiates with weakness. The general does not negotiate. He commands. He looks at his mind the way a military strategist looks at a map, identifying weak points, eliminating dead weight, and fortifying what matters. Every thought you allow to linger without purpose is enemy territory. Every distraction you entertain is a breach in your defense. Every time you choose comfort over sharpness, you are handing your opponent a weapon to use against you. Focus is not a feeling. It is not something you wait to be inspired by. Focus is a decision made with the cold precision of a man who understands that time is the only resource that cannot be recovered once lost. Your mind is the battlefield. And right now, most men are losing on it without even realizing the war has already begun. The first act of reclamation is violent. You must identify every source of mental noise that has been granted access to your attention without earning it. The notification that pulls you from deep work. The conversation that produces nothing. The content you consume to feel informed, but that leaves you more scattered than before. These are not neutral habits. They are occupying forces. And the man who refuses to evict them is not a passive participant in his own decline. He is an active collaborator in it. Begin the audit today, not tomorrow. Today. Map your mind like a general maps a captured city. Identify what is yours. Identify what has been installed by external forces. And begin, systematically and without sentiment, retaking every corner of it. Number 2. The general does not react. He calculates. Weak men react. They see provocation and they respond immediately, emotionally, without thought, like a chess piece being moved by someone else's hand. This is exactly what your enemies want. This is exactly what the world is designed to trigger in you. Every notification, every insult, every setback, every moment of chaos around you is a test. And most men fail it before they even realize they are being tested. The general operates differently. When pressure arrives, he does not flinch. He observes, he measures, he calculates the weight of every possible response before he moves a single muscle. Machiavelli wrote that the wise man does not leave things to chance when he can apply reason. That principle is not just political strategy. It is a psychological architecture that separates the powerful from the powerless. Understand this. Your emotional reaction is not strength. It is exposure. The moment you react without calculation, you have revealed your weak points to every sharp mind watching you. And there are always sharp minds watching. The boardroom, the street, the relationship, the negotiation, every arena of life rewards the man who can absorb pressure like stone and release response like a surgeon's cut. Precise, deliberate, devastating. This is what dangerous focus looks like in practice. It means you build a wall between stimulus and response. And inside that wall you think. You assess the terrain. You ask yourself what outcome you are engineering, not what emotion you are feeling. Feelings are data, not commands. The general reads them, processes them, and then sets them aside to do what must be done. React, and you become predictable. Calculate, and you become untouchable. Drop in the comments right now, I calculate, I do not react. Say it because the man who can say it and mean it has already begun to operate on a frequency that most men around him have never accessed. Number 3. Silence is your most dangerous weapon. There is a reason the most powerful men in history were never the loudest ones in the room. Power does not announce itself. Power does not explain itself. Power does not justify itself to those who are not qualified to understand it. And yet most men spend the majority of their energy doing exactly that. Explaining their moves, defending their decisions, broadcasting their plans, seeking validation from mouths that will never feed them and minds that will never match them. This is not communication. This is self-sabotage, dressed in the language of confidence. Machiavelli understood the geometry of silence better than almost any thinker who has ever lived. He watched princes fall, not because they lacked intelligence, but because they could not control what came out of their mouths. He observed courts, kingdoms, and power structures collapse because men revealed too much, too soon, to too many. Information is currency, and the man who spends his currency carelessly will always end up bankrupt, regardless of how much he started with. Every word you speak unnecessarily is a withdrawal from your power account. Every plan you announce before it is executed is a strategy handed to your opposition. Every emotion you display publicly is a map of your vulnerabilities given freely to those who would exploit them. The general speaks with intention or he does not speak at all. He understands that silence in a conversation is not emptiness. It is pressure. It forces the other person to fill the void, to reveal themselves, to expose their hand while he keeps his chest close. Silence is intelligence gathering. Silence is dominance without aggression. Silence is the kind of control that cannot be argued with, cannot be manipulated, and cannot be disarmed, because there is nothing visible to target. Train yourself to become comfortable in silence the way a predator is comfortable in stillness. The lion does not roar before the hunt. He moves without announcement, strikes without warning, and lets the outcome speak with a volume that no words could ever match. Stop explaining your vision to people who are not on the battlefield with you. Speak less. Observe more. Let your results be the only statement that matters. Number 4. Eliminate everything that does not serve the mission. Machiavelli was not a man of sentiment. He was a man of strategy. And one of the most ruthless strategic truths he ever revealed was this: a prince who tries to please everyone will ultimately be destroyed by everyone. You cannot build an empire while carrying dead weight. You cannot become a general while surrounding yourself with soldiers who have already surrendered in their minds. Most men are afraid of the cut. They hold on to friendships that drain them because they fear loneliness. They maintain habits that sabotage them because change feels like loss. They stay in environments that shrink them because familiarity feels like safety. But here is the cold truth. Your environment is not just influencing you. It is programming you. Every person you spend time with, every conversation you engage in, every space you occupy is either sharpening your edge or dulling it. There is no neutral ground. The general conducts an audit. He looks at his inner circle with the same ruthless objectivity he applies to enemy intelligence. He asks, does this relationship elevate my mission or dilute it? Does this habit build my capacity or erode it? Does this environment produce the version of me I am engineering, or does it keep pulling me back toward the version I am trying to destroy? These are not cruel questions. They are necessary ones. Sentimentality is a luxury that losers afford themselves. The man who refuses to lose cannot carry passengers. This does not mean you become cold to the world. It means you become disciplined about what and who earns access to your time, your energy, and your mental space. Because your focus is finite. Your hours are finite, and every minute spent on what does not serve the mission is a minute stolen from the man you are becoming. Cut ruthlessly. Build deliberately. Protect your focus like it is the most valuable asset you own. Because it is. Drop in the comments, I protect my focus, like a general protects his command, because the man who understands that statement has already begun making cuts that most men around him will spend their entire lives afraid to make. Number 5. Build in the dark. The strategy of invisible progress. There is a moment in every serious man's journey where he must make a choice that the majority of the world will never understand. The choice to disappear. Not physically, not permanently, but strategically. The choice to go quiet on the timelines, to stop performing progress for an audience, to close the curtain on the work and let the silence around him grow loud while he grows powerful in the space that silence creates. Most men cannot make this choice. They are too addicted to the feedback loop, too dependent on the dopamine of visibility, too psychologically fragile to exist without the constant confirmation that other people are watching, approving, and acknowledging their movement. And that addiction is one of the most effective limiters on human potential that has ever existed. Machiavelli understood the strategic value of concealment at a level that most modern thinkers have entirely forgotten. He studied the rulers who lasted and the rulers who fell. And one of the patterns he identified was this. The prince who moved visibly was always easier to stop than the prince who moved invisibly. When your enemies can see your trajectory, they can calculate your destination. When they can calculate your destination, they can position themselves to block it. But when you operate beneath the surface, when your preparation is private and your strategy is sealed, you remove from your opposition the most critical asset they need to neutralize you. Information. Dark psychology adds another layer that cuts even deeper. The moment you begin publicly performing your self-improvement, broadcasting your gym sessions, announcing your goals, narrating your transformation for an audience, you trigger a psychological phenomenon where the social recognition you receive begins to substitute for the actual achievement. Your brain, which cannot fully distinguish between the reward of accomplishment and the reward of acknowledgement, begins to feel satisfied before the work is complete. The result is a man who talks like a winner, but moves like someone who has already collected the prize. You have seen this man. You may have been this man. The cure is radical and simple. Stop announcing and start executing. When you resurface after a period of invisible work, sharper, stronger, more capable, more resourced than anyone around you expected, the psychological impact on those who doubted you is total and irreversible. You do not have to say a word. Your transformation says everything, and it says it in a language that cannot be argued with, minimized, or undermined. Go dark on the noise. Go deep on the mission. Let the world wonder what happened to you, and then show them exactly what happened through results so undeniable that silence was always the loudest strategy you could have chosen. Number 6. The man who controls his hunger controls his destiny. There is a particular kind of destruction that does not come from your enemies. It does not come from the market, the competition, or the circumstances stacked against you. It comes from within. It comes from appetite without discipline, from desire without direction, from the raw, unregulated hunger that lives inside every man and, when left unchecked, becomes the very force that dismantles everything he has built. Machiavelli warned of this with surgical precision. He observed that men are conquered most completely, not by outside forces, but by their own passions. And history has proven him correct, with a consistency that should terrify every man who is paying attention. Look at the men who had everything and lost it. The leaders who built empires and then watched them collapse. The executives, the athletes, the visionaries who reached the summit and then self-destructed in plain sight. In almost every case, the weapon that brought them down was not wielded by an enemy. It was wielded by themselves. Unchecked desire for pleasure, unmanaged addiction to validation, uncontrolled appetite for more. Faster, louder, larger, without the internal architecture to sustain it. Hunger without discipline is not ambition. It is a slow, sophisticated form of self-destruction that wears the mask of drive. The general understands that desire is not the enemy. Desire is fuel. But fuel without a controlled burn mechanism does not power an engine. It causes an explosion. The most dangerous and effective men who have ever walked this earth were not men without desire. They were men who had learned to place their desire in chains, to direct it, throttle it, and release it only in the precise direction of their mission. Marcus Aurelius governed the most powerful empire in the ancient world without losing himself to its pleasures. And that was not accidental. It was the result of daily, deliberate, unrelenting internal governance. He wrote in his private journals not for an audience, but as an act of self-command, reminding himself that the quality of his life was determined not by what happened to him, but by what he chose to want. Control your hunger, and you control your timeline. Control your timeline, and you control your outcomes. Control your outcomes, and you become the kind of man that the world has no choice but to reckon with. Drop in the comments right now, "My hunger obeys me." Say it and mean it, because the man who can write that and believe it is already operating on a frequency that most men will never reach. Number 7. You are the weapon. Now become unstoppable. Everything built in this script has been moving toward one irreversible conclusion. The most dangerous force on this earth is not a system, not a circumstance, not an enemy with resources and reach. It is a man who has decided, fully, completely, without reservation, and without the possibility of retreat. A man who has looked at every weakness inside himself, every limitation around him, every voice that told him to shrink, and chosen with the cold clarity of a general surveying his final battlefield to become something that the world has no framework to stop. Machiavelli did not write his principles for the masses. He wrote them for the rare man. The man willing to see reality without the comfort of illusion, to operate without the crutch of approval, to build with the kind of focused, relentless, unwitnessed intensity that turns vision into legacy. Epictetus, who began his life as a slave and built a philosophy of power from inside chains, understood something that men with every advantage in the world still cannot grasp. There are things within your control and things outside of it. The entirety of your suffering comes from confusing the two. The focused man, the general, has made peace with that distinction at a cellular level. He does not waste his psychological energy raging against what cannot be changed. He identifies with ruthless clarity what belongs to his will, his effort, his response, his standards, his direction, and he pours everything he has into that domain while releasing everything else with the clean detachment of a man who knows exactly where his power lives. That is not weakness. That is the most precise form of force that exists, because it is applied only where it matters. It is never diffused across targets that cannot be taken. It never bleeds out into complaints about what is unfair, what is difficult, or what is stacked against you. It concentrates, it compounds, and it strikes exactly when the moment demands it. The focused man does not hope that circumstances will change. He changes himself until his circumstances have no choice but to follow. He does not wait for the right moment. He creates it. He does not ask for opportunity. He engineers it from the raw materials of discipline, strategic patience, and unwavering attention to what actually matters. This is the architecture of the unlosable man. Not the man who never faces defeat, but the man who has structured himself so thoroughly around his mission that defeat cannot find permanent residence inside him. It arrives. He assesses it, he extracts the intelligence from it, and he continues, without collapse, without performance, without the need for anyone watching to confirm that he is still moving. You are not building toward this, you are uncovering it. It was always there beneath the noise, the doubt, the distraction, and the damage. The work is simply the process of removing everything that is not it. Every principle in this script is a blade. Reclaim your mental territory. Calculate instead of reacting. Weaponize your silence. Eliminate dead weight with zero apology. Build in the dark where no one can disrupt your momentum. Govern your hunger with the iron discipline of a man who has studied what desire without direction does to men who had everything. And then stand in the full cold clarity of what you have become. Not loud, not performing, not seeking confirmation from a world that never asked for your greatness and will not hand it to you. Just built, just focused, just dangerous. The general does not ask for permission to win. He prepares until winning becomes the only outcome that his discipline makes possible. And that preparation is yours to begin right now, in this moment, in the decision you make the second this script ends. Drop in the comments your final declaration: I am the general. I refuse to lose. Say it like you mean it, because the man who means it has already begun to become it. If this reached something real inside you, subscribe to Machiavellian Mind and turn on notifications. What is coming next will go even deeper. The war is not over. It has just begun.